It's time for the Greg King, presented by RJ's Pub. Let's head live to RJ's Pub in Roger Hills. Here's Coach Kampe and the voice of the Golden Grizzlies, Naivalurua.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Greg and Kampe Show. We are live here at RJ's Pub in Rochester Hills. My name is Naivalurua, voice of the Golden Grizzlies. Of course, he is the coach of Greg and Kampe. Camp, how you doing, man?
Just glad to be here. Sorry I missed last week, but I heard Smitty was way better than I am anyway. So that's why I sent him on the road tonight. He's out west somewhere.
You eliminated the threat.
Eliminated the threat, right?
I like it. No, got a road trip to talk about here. A trip to Wisconsin, the first Horizon League team to get a victory in the state of Wisconsin. The rest of the Horizon League now 1-10 in games at Wisconsin. And Camp, we talk about this all the time, every single year. The story never changes. It's the hardest trip in the Horizon League.
It is. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One is just to get there. Now we've taken care of that. We chartered there, so that gives us a real advantage, and maybe even part of why we were able to win a double overtime game on the last day of the trip. The fact that we weren't on a bus for 6 hours and then 4 hours, so that probably had a lot to do with it. But I also think that those two teams are really good. I think Milwaukee, at the end of the season, when you get into tournament time, I think you got to look at Milwaukee because their bigs are getting better, and they're a team like many teams in this day and age of the transfer portal. They're a team that's growing as the season goes on. You get players playing together for the first time, and they're very talented offensively. It's hard. We did a hell of a job on Freeman. He had 7 points, and I think 4 of those 7 came into overtimes. But Polian hurt us, and that big kid was just I can't think of his name. Fields, maybe 22.
Yes,
he was a man. He didn't play like that the first time we played him, and I haven't seen much of that on film from him. So he's growing and getting better, and so that's a team that scares me a little bit as we get later into the season. I think they have a chance to be really, really good. And Green Bay's on a high right now. They're playing really well. They've got a great player, but they've got a couple kids that can really shoot it. And they had 2 guys go 9 for 10 from the 3 against us.
That's tough.
And that game, I blame myself a lot for I made a couple of tactical errors late in that game, and I think that hurt our team. 50-50 with 5 minutes to go. We were in a position that we need to be in. We've won every close game, and we changed. I went man, and it wasn't so much that we went man. I think we did it a little too early, but they had just banked one in, and then they had gotten an open look, and a guy that hadn't made one all night made one. And Rocket came down, made a really nice play, got us back even, and I thought, okay, let's throw something different at him. Basically what happened is their great player took us to the rack and scored, and he only had 8 points in the game, and 4 of those came in this run. What I should have done if I had experience
was kick the field goal.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
What I should have done was after the second possession, we should have gone back to the zone. And, that's an error on me, and I feel bad. Hurt our team, and you never want to say that as a coach. Now, obviously, if we'd have made a couple shots during that run, it could have changed it too. In our league, with everybody bunched together like that, I don't think you're going to win every game, and there's reasons you lose some. And we were on a streak. We won 6 in a row going into that. We weren't able to win, and the big thing is that we came back and 1 loss didn't become 2. And that's all on our players. They just did an unbelievable job in that game. We saw Goki get hot and be the Goki we need to win a championship. We saw Tuburu get extended minutes for the first time since the summer, and showed what he could do. Lampman made some big shots. Trey had a really tough shooting night. I've never seen him miss so many point blank shots, but he made every free throw. So he didn't let the fact that, we ran this little play against the zone, and he broke so open. I don't think he could believe he was that open, and he missed the point blank layup at a critical time. And you don't see that from him very often. He could have pouted, and he didn't. He came down, we threw it into him, he got fouled, and made 2 free throws on the next possession. So, that they're doing things that you have to do in close games. We've won every close game that we've played that got into the last 2 minutes of a game where it was a one-possession game. We won those games in the league. And if we continue to do that with that kind of toughness and that kind of confidence in themselves and belief in themselves, no matter what's happening, we're going to be a tough out.
The Greg Kampe Show is brought to you by Henry Ford Sports Medicine, the official team physicians for Oakland University and you. For more info, visit henryford.com/athlete. Remember, you can get involved with the show as well. Send us a tweet with the hashtag AskKampe. Coming up in about 25 minutes or so, we will read all those. Anything you got, Coach Kampe is open for it. He's down to talk about it, and there are questions filing in.
I just started yelling at somebody in the audience that comes every game.
Austin, giving Austin a hard time.
Yeah.
Giving Austin a hard time.
This would probably be his last radio show.
Yeah. Another huge crowd out here as well. The Oakland Golden Grizzlies, or the Oakland University Journalism Department. Gary Gilbert's class is here tonight. Welcome to them. Good to have you guys out here. But we are doing it here on 1270 AM, the Bet, your home for Golden Grizzlies basketball. But Camp, you mentioned it. You talked about Blake Lampman. Good trip for Blake Lampman. He made 10 threes in the 2 games. And, as far as Blake goes, because certainly, Jack exploded in that game against Milwaukee. We just got to bring about 50 or 100 of his family members to every game. And he'll do that exact same thing. But between the two of them, 18 threes in the 2 games. You like that?
Yeah, and that's what we built this team on. At the beginning of the year, before Blake got hurt in the first 2 games, one of the things that as you script up your season and we got back from the summer, I wanted Jack to shoot 15 threes a game. I wanted Blake to shoot 10 threes a game. And we weren't sure what was happening at the point guard position. And one of the reasons Blake might not be getting as many was because I thought he was going to have the ball in his hands more. And so that was kind of the plan, and it was going that way. And then we lost Blake for 6 or 7 games. And, the team started to morph us in a different way. And you have your ebbs and flows during the season. But as we get now into February, I feel pretty confident that we're back to, what our identity would be. And that is, if you're going to double the post and try and take Trey and Chris out of the game, we're going to shoot a lot of threes. We shot 41 threes against Milwaukee, and Milwaukee played zone, and they don't play zone because they weren't going to let Trey beat them. That's what Green Bay did. And I think, Green Bay beat us. So everybody in the league is going to look at, what would they do? And how come Townsend only had whatever, 8 or 10 or whatever he had. And that's what teams are going to do to us. And now we've given them thought for, Blake with 5 and Jack with 8. And, they're going to have to make a decision. And so we think we're built for anything. We think we're built that we can play fast. We think we're built that we can play slow. We think we're built that on a bad offensive night, we can still win. And we think we can beat you in a shootout. The only thing that scares me is I think we turned the ball too much. We turned the ball over too much in the first half. And then the nights that for some reason we don't rebound, those are the nights that scare me.
Speaking of rebounding, and a guy who will join us here on the Kampe Show as well, Naivalurua, 17 rebounds in the game at Milwaukee. I mean, and look, it was a game camp where Milwaukee's bigs were punishing us. I mean, that's a fair way to say it. And then Baru comes in the game and changes the entire tenor of all of that with a couple of big time blocks, and just went on a rebounding spree.
Yeah, and the rebounding is we know he can do that. As he grows as a player, as he gets better, as he gets stronger, one of the things he's got to learn, and he's here and he's hearing me say this, but he's heard a lot in practices, he's just got to get stronger in his arms and his hands. And he can get to balls that nobody else can get to. Now, can he hold on to them when he gets there? You see that from DQ a lot too. It gets to a ball, but then it can't quite come down with it. And Baru is learning that too. And as big and strong as he is once that becomes natural for him, he's going to get the balls that nobody in our league can get to, and he's going to have a lot of rebounding nights like that. And as his career progresses, where he's playing, 30 to 33 minutes a game, it's just, he's got to get, just got to go through the process, let the process take care of itself, and get stronger and get a little meaner. Get him a little meaner. He's a really good kid and a really nice guy, but sometimes you just got to get a little meaner. I think he will.
You talk about the process, Camp. The Horizon League standings right now certainly are in process as well. You guys, Youngstown State, and Green Bay all sitting towards the top of the table. Everybody with 3 losses. Green Bay's played one more game, so they have one more win. But this is about what we thought, right? You have basically Green Bay, Youngstown State, and Oakland with 3 losses, and there's Wright State. Here comes old Wright State, by the way, as we figured would be the case. Those are your top 4 seeds right there, all within pretty much a half a game of each other.
Yeah, like I've said over and over again this year, many years ago, I was an assistant coach at the University of Toledo, and where, you finish first, but you're the 5th seed, right? Or now, if you finish first and you're the 5th seed, you're going to have to go on the road. And so we can't be in that position, and tiebreakers are going to mean the world. And right now we're really good with Youngstown. The 3 teams with 3 losses worth 3-1 against those 3 teams. Now Youngstown and Green Bay haven't played, so Green Bay is 1-1 and Youngstown's 0-2. But they're going to play twice. We're not going to play either one of them again. So we have to play Wright State twice. We have to, at the minimum, in a position where we'll win almost every tiebreaker there is. If, as Milwaukee with 5 losses, if they do what I think they're capable of doing and getting better, we're 2-0 against them too, which are going to play in the tiebreakers. The Cleveland State game is going to be unbelievably important for us because they beat us.
Right.
And so we can't be 0-2 against somebody that will hurt us in the tiebreakers. As you look at those games, I'm not even worried about who's first or who's second right now. I'm just worried about we've got to put ourselves in a position that we have a home game. Once I know we've got that, then I'm going to worry about where we finish. And obviously, the players and the staff and everybody wants the ring for winning the regular season, and that's what we aspire to do. But we do know that our number one goal is the tournament and being seated in a position that you could get to Indianapolis and win that thing. And so that's got to be the main focus right now. And the only way to do that is take them one at a time.
No doubt. Speaking of one at a time, back in the arena on Thursday night, Robert Morris will be in town. Love to see everybody out there at the arena. Go to goldengrizzlies.com, get your tickets to that. And Camp, we've seen the crowds, grow and grow and grow, and the environment gets louder and louder and louder. And now we're coming down the stretch.
Yeah, and I've seen some video from a few years ago, and I'd like to get back to that.
Yeah.
I'd like to get back to where we were pre-pandemic with the student crowd and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully this is an exciting team that can make plays, and things are going pretty good for us. Hopefully, we can have that type of crowd Thursday and Saturday. I know this. What I just told you scares me is the bad rebounding night. Robert Morris, the best rebounding team in our league, and I was unaware of that until I started watching. I haven't paid a lot of attention to them because we haven't played them, and they were so far down the schedule before they and Wright State, are in the second half of the season. So I hadn't really paid attention to those 2 teams, and I put a lot of attention into them since Saturday night, and they rebound. God darn, they go to the glass and they rebound, and they can shoot the 3 and all the things that could beat you. They're capable of doing. They had the 3-game winning streak snapped, because they missed a free throw against Cleveland State. The kid makes a free throw, they probably win the game. And I think they lost it, maybe even in overtime, but it was a 2-point loss, I think. So.
Yeah, and as you said, they've climbed the standings too. They're up to 4-6 right now. And just to give you some flavor on that, Cleveland State 6-5. There's a bunch of teams in between that.
Right
so
there. It could be a 7-way tie. It could be a 1 team in first and a 5-way tie for second. There's a lot of very important games that have to be played. As I said, Youngstown got to go up to Wisconsin. Northern Kentucky's got to go up to Wisconsin. Oakland, Cleveland State have already been up there, so that's kind of bodes well for us, the fact that we got that win. But we still have, we've got a 3-game road span of Northern Kentucky, Wright State, and Fort Wayne back to back. So there's a lot of tough games out there, and you can't look forward to that. You just got to play them one at a time. If you start looking forward, that's when one loss becomes 2.
Camp, I did want to touch on this with you before we get Baru in here and get to our first break of the night. Trey, you brought up Trey in Milwaukee. It's just sight unseen. As soon as he touches the ball, boom, two are running at him. And it's pretty much been the story the entire league play. How big was that when you look at Blake and you look at Jack to maybe give Trey a little bit of breathing room to know that if you just sight unseen run that double team at him, you could pay a price?
Well, yeah, we've just got to make shots. And one thing I keep telling people that I'm close to and friends that text me and call me after games, and that is, we're sitting up there in a pretty good position, and I don't think we've even come close to playing how we're capable of playing in a rising game. You look at the Xavier game, you look at the Ohio State game, you look at Illinois game, the way we confidently shot the ball, and the way we played, the way we rebounded. We just haven't seen the total game yet, and we're winning. And we're winning because of toughness. We're winning because we have great kids that want to win, and they figure out how to win, and they stick with the game plan. They're coachable, and they make plays down the stretch. And that's why we're winning close games. One of these days, the light's going to come on, and we're going to start making shots. And when we get an 8-point lead, it's going to go to 14. And when it gets to 14, it's going to go to 20. I watched Youngstown, Northern Kentucky the other day, and yesterday it was, I think. And Northern Kentucky comes out and makes 5 or 6 shots to start the game, and they're ahead by 8. And Youngstown's playing at home, and they catch up. They go up 6, and then they go up 10, and then they go up 20, and then they go up 30. Against a really good team, and they played their A game. We haven't done that yet, and so I'm waiting for that because the ball going in it's contagious, right? And now that Jack's made a few shots and he's feeling better about himself, and then you see DQ make some, and maybe Rocket can get going with a few, and you start seeing the ball go in. That's when you take an 8-point lead to 25, and we need to do that. We have not done that other than at IUPUI. It's the only time we've done it all year.
All right, when we come back, we'll be joined by a guy that certainly had his A game Saturday in Milwaukee. Naivalurua will join us when we come back. Make sure you get those questions in with the hashtag #AskKampe. We'll be back with more of the Greg Kampe Show. We're live at RJ's Pub in Rochester Hills. The guy, we talked about the A game. He brought his A game on Saturday. Naivalurua, our guest here on the Greg Kampe Show. And we appreciate your time. How you feel? I know you're feeling pretty good after Saturday.
I mean, yeah, it's always good to get a road win. I can't be saying we're the first thing to do it in Wisconsin, so I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Absolutely. And if you can tell, Baru is from a native of Australia, born in Australia, grew up in Fiji. I want to talk about that a little bit. Your family. Your family history, you kind of moved around a little bit when you were younger. As you said, you were born in Australia, you grew up in Fiji, ended up back in Australia. Kind of take us through that.
Yeah, so my parents are both native to Fiji, and they spent their entire lives there for the most part, or at least my dad did. My mom moved to Australia when she was 18. My auntie actually moved her over there. She had thought it was going to be for a holiday for a short time, and then my auntie basically told her, no, you're not doing that. You're going to get a job, you're going to get your visa, you're going to work to have a better life for you and your kids. And that's what she did. She ended up having 6 of us all up, and I'm the youngest, so it was pretty easy for me growing up. My older siblings and my mom always did a really good job of making sure I had everything, and even though we did struggle at times, I always had everything that I needed because of them. So having them in my life has helped me a lot. Early on, like you said, I spent some time in Fiji as well, and when you're there, as much as I did like it, I loved my time in Fiji when I was a kid. It's a very, very community-based island. Everyone knows each other. Everyone's kids hang out with each other. Every morning I'd wake up, I'd walk past someone's house, and they'd just invite me in for breakfast. That's how things were.
So it was like a real community.
Yeah, they really just, everyone knew everyone. Everyone was okay with sharing with everyone. And, that's how it is. But it's that way because life over there can get pretty tough. We didn't have hot water a lot of the time. I remember taking a bath by boiling water over a fire and then putting it into a tub, waiting for it to cool down for a bit, and then jumping in that to wash myself, basically. That's how it was. So going from that and then going back home and, just really realizing how much sacrifice my mom paid for me to be in the position I am now. It was something that I look back on a lot and appreciate.
Brew, tell us about, in Australia, basketball. Basketball is a bigger thing in Australia probably than people even realize. How did you end up on the basketball floor?
Yeah, I actually started out playing rugby, and I did that for 9 years, I think from 6 to about 15 when I finally stopped.
So you were a beast then, because rugby guys are built different, man. That is a different game.
Yeah, look, a lot of people say that a lot, but it's just
what you did.
It's a cultural thing. In Fiji and Australia too, rugby's huge, really, really big. I grew up my whole life wanting to be a rugby star and play for Fiji and represent Australia, win a gold medal at the Olympics, do all those sorts of things. And funnily enough, I did none of that with rugby and decided to play basketball instead. But I actually started because my high school basketball coach saw me walking in the hallway one day, and he basically just told me, "You're really tall, and I've seen you play rugby, and you're pretty athletic. Do you want to give it a go?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Played one game, was horrible, really bad, but
tough crowd here by tonight, though, Brew.
Yeah. The two things I've always been pretty good at rebounding and blocking shots, and even though I couldn't score or dribble or do anything else, I could do those things really well, and I enjoyed the whole learning process behind it as well, and just knowing that there was so much that I had to explore and learn and get better at sort of drew me towards it, and I found myself through the weeks being drawn more and more towards basketball, and eventually just ripped me away from playing rugby.
The Greg Kampe Show is brought to you by the Pinot Insurance Agency, LLC of Mimic Insurance. They cater to the educational market. If you're looking for affordable insurance and a knowledgeable insurance agency, go online to pinoinsurance.com today. That's PINO insurance.com today. Well, fast forward to last Saturday, as a matter of fact, just a couple days ago. Brew, and you heard me kind of give my assessment of that game against Milwaukee, where their bigs were kind of having their way with us a little bit during the beginning stages of that game and stages of that game. You came in there and you changed that, Brew. You came in there and you came in there with an attitude that no matter what size they were going to be, you were going to go right at them, and you did go right at them and block and shot just a couple of electric block shots that really changed the momentum of the basketball game. You finished with 17 rebounds, 5 blocks, and 8 points in 35 minutes of play. Just What about that mentality, Baru? Because I do believe that you single-handedly changed that basketball game as far as the interior goes, around the basket, with the way you were able to block those shots. What do you like better, scoring or blocking a shot?
As much as I'd like to say blocking shots, I think I like seeing the ball go in the basket a little bit
No,
more.
yeah, I mean, we're all human, right? Yeah.
Getting a nice block is always nice. Like the feeling of just rejecting someone at the rim or sending shots out of bounds is a good feeling too.
Because I see you do it, and you're Baru. Like, you're not overly emotional when you're out there on the floor. I don't really know what you're thinking or anything like that. You go in like a huge moment in that game, and you send a shot back. You send it back with force, man. Like you really did a number, and you just kind of turn around and you wait for the ball to be inbounded and everything like that. You don't seem to get overly emotional out there, do you?
I mean, at the end of the day, play to play, none of it really matters if we lose. So we win, I'll just save the celebrating until then.
No, but again, 7 offensive rebounds. Tell me about the process of offensive rebounding. What is it like for you?
I mean, for me, a lot of it just goes towards knowing my teammates and how they're doing on the day and how they miss practice. How they miss shots generally. And I know Trey, like Coach said, wasn't having the best shooting night, but I also know Trey's a really big, strong kid, so whenever he's around the basket, he's never, ever going to miss short. So as long as I'm on the other side, the ball's probably going to come to me by itself. I won't have to do a whole lot. And like I said, again, we have a lot of shooters, and he stressed a lot about the ball going to the nail. So this game, I just thought, why not just sprint there and see what happens? And it turns out he was right. And on the last rebound of regulation, I kicked back out to Jack, the ball flew straight to the nail, and I just happened to be there and kicked it to Jack, and he made a big shot.
The nail. Was Coach Kampe the first one of your coaches that used that terminology, the nail?
Not the nail, but he was the first coach I ever had that said that the ball was just going to be there. So if you find yourself there, you get a rebound.
And that's the way that it's worked out. It's kind of an older term. I'll let Coach Kampe explain it when he comes back up here. This basketball team, Baru. Coach Kampe brought up the fact that you guys can win a game 100-95. You guys can win a game 59.
We love each other. Like we will never go into games and into these late game situations and let the guy next to us down. It's always going to be tooth and nail up until the buzzer sounds. And I think the game against Milwaukee showed just that. We were down by I think 11 with 4 minutes to go in the half, and we came back from that to take the lead or tie it up. I can't remember just now, but again, towards the end of regulation, we were down, and Jack made some big shots for us. Blake made some big shots for us. The same thing with our first overtime. We found ourselves in a position again where we were down, and once again, Jack came to the rescue and hit a big shot for us. And we got into that second overtime, and by then, it was just a battle of who wants it more, and in the end, we did.
Well, I actually want to back up. This would be the final question, Baru. We'll let you get on your way here on a Monday night, but rebounding, because you talk about technique and you talk about the skill of rebounding and knowing the misses and knowing where you guys are going to miss. How much of rebounding is that?
Be in the right position every single time, but if the guy there just happens to want it more than me or is tougher than me in the moment, then he'll rip it out of my hands every time. So I think the biggest thing in rebounding really is just how tough you want to be, how much you want it, how badly you want to end the possession on defense or give your team another chance on offense.
Well, 17 times on Saturday, you wanted it more than everybody else on the floor, man. We certainly do appreciate your time here today. That was a great game. We're looking forward to more of it, Baru. Thanks, man.
No worries.
Absolutely. There he is. That's right. Baru Naivalurua, everybody, here on the Greg Kampe Show. And when we come back, it'll be time for Ask Kampe. So get Twitter questions with hashtag Ask Kampe. We'll be back with more of the Greg Kampe Show. We're live at our Mr. Hill. Welcome back to the Greg Kampe Show. We are live at RJ's Pub in Rochester Hills. He's Greg Kampe. My name is Neil Roll, the voice of the Golden Grizzlies. Happy to have you with us. It's just about time for the Ask Kampe segment of the show. What do you got, Kampe?
The week you were gone,
Yes.
every time we came back from commercial, people applaud.
Did that?
You're back. And I don't know if it's you or I'm tired of you.
They got my back. They know that you can support local dairy farmers too by choosing award-winning Prairie Farms dairy products. Visit prairiefarms.com for coupons and recipes. Prairie Farms celebrating 85 years of feeding America's families.
Back to the cows.
Happy cows, Cam. Happy cows. You ready for the Ask Kampe portion? All right, here we go. Pittsburgh Marty will lead things off. Hashtag Ask Kampe. Congrats on being the first team to win in the Horizon League in Wisconsin. As you roll into the second half of league play, do you focus more on refining, perfecting what you do well, or adding wrinkles to the offensive and defensive schemes, quick hitters, variations, etc.?
You can always count on Marty to give us a good one, right?
Absolutely.
We hold a lot back as the season goes on because we're going the key games are in March, obviously, and there's going to be, you're playing a team for a third time and you're going to know each other. In many cases, you've played the same coach for, 35 times and you know what they do and people know what we do. And so we always try and save a few things. Tomorrow's practice, we're going to put, work today and figured out how I'm going to do this, but we're going to put 4 new little quick hitters in. Just because by now we know what works. We keep the analytics on everything. We know exactly how many times this year we've run this and done this. And if the ball reversed sides, if it didn't reverse sides, if somebody touched it, who's on the floor when this play works. Let's say we've run choice go 37 times and 23 of those times Rocket Watts had the ball and 10 times Blake had it and 5 times DQ had it. That probably doesn't add up to 37, but we know who was the most successful guy at running the play. We know everything. So as we get deeper into the season, and I've said this many times, and I say it to my team all the time, erosion is what kills your team. So you think you're good at something, and so you go away from working on those things because you want to get better at something else, and then all of a sudden you're not good at that anymore anyways because, like I said the other night after the Green Bay game, we were going to play to Jack, and early in the year, Jack made this shot more than anybody I've ever coached made it, and then Jack had some tough times, so we didn't run it as much. We go back and run it the other night, and we don't set the screen to get him open. And that's what I'm talking about, erosion. That's not on the players. That's on me because we hadn't run that in practice. We hadn't run, we call it bunch 43. We hadn't run bunch 43 in practice in 3 weeks. So I call it in the game, and we don't run it right. That's on me. So it's our job that in practices, because our practices now, actual practice time are only 35 to 45 minutes now. We're out there longer than that because we stretch, because we watch video, film, we talk a lot. But the actual practice time is 35 to 45 minutes. So now it's on the coaching staff to make sure we hit the things so that we don't erode in what we do good. And then the biggest part of our practices now are how are we going to guard what the team we're going to play does. So we have to work on our defense and not let what we do well erode.
We had one for Baru here that snuck in at the beginning. So, Baru, I'll ask you just real quick. This comes from the Nightcapper. Hey, guys, wishing you all good health in the new year. Checking in for my bachelor pad in Miami. Okay, sounds like one of Jack Golke's friends. This one is for Baru.
Or Jamal Kane.
Yeah, or Jamal Kane, exactly. You want an all-time Australian starting 5. Who was your favorite Australian player of all time? Patty Mills, and I was going to say that's probably
everybody's.
That's everybody's favorite Australian player.
I never met that guy, but he must be a hell of a guy because anybody from Australia talks about that guy.
Yeah, they absolutely do. He said, being transparent, in my all-time starting 5, I have you plugged in at the number 4 spot after that performance in Milwaukee. So you're climbing the ranks. There is that one for you.
Let's get that up to 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Horizon Man has a question. Ask Kampe, has there been any update or progress made on the practice facility? Do you anticipate it being similar to Milwaukee that we're in the past weekend?
Well, we're actually, we're past the planning stage. We're in the budget stage. We meet every Friday on it. We have either a Zoom call or on campus hour meeting every Friday. the construction company, the planners, the designs people have been unbelievable, allowing myself and our women's program to input what we want, and they're coming back, and everything's great. The only problem is I was the chairman of the guy that built the arena. So, I lived through everything. We went through this phase and we came back. We had $32 million at that time. And when we came back, the meeting afterwards to say, okay, here it is. Well, this is going to cost $52 million. So we had to
Go to work. Yeah.
project engineer was a new word I learned, $20 million out of that. So I'm waiting for them to come back now and say, okay, this is going to cost this. This is what we have, and how we're going to project engineer out of this. I will say this, everything I've told them, and our women's side agrees with me, is we want the playing surface, the locker rooms, and lounge and all that stuff is the priority for me. Everything for the players, and this is the priority. So they want to be there all the time. I don't need an office. I told them I'll sit on a folding chair. I don't care about that. I need a film room, I need a playing area, and I need my players to love being in the situation. And I think they're taking that, and our goal is to be practicing in there by Christmas of next year, and then the whole thing by the end of when the 2025 class reports in June, that we're fully in it. So we're hoping by Christmas of next year we'll actually be able to practice on the floor.
Giovanni Moscheri actually has two. One was for Baru, and I asked him about this before during the commercial break. Said, how high can you jump? I've heard legends that you jumped higher than the highest measurement. Do you have a number for it, or are we keeping it a secret? And Giovanni, I was told to tell you that they did testing. The test mark went up to 42 inches. Baru was above that, so he was in fact off the charts. His vertical is off the charts.
So Kay Felder was off our charts at the time when he was here too, and then when he went to the combine in Chicago, he actually at that time, now I understand it's been broken, but at that time he had the highest vertical jump of any player that was ever at the combine.
It still stands as third, yeah.
Yeah, so Baruch, you keep working, keep getting 17 rebounds, we can get you to Chicago in 3 years, and maybe you can break that record.
He also wanted to know, why is it so hard for the whole league to win in Wisconsin? Is it just both teams are good this year? What's the story on that?
It's mostly that, but it's also the trip. I mean, it's just such a long trip compared to everybody else. Back in the day when we were in the Summit League, everybody was that far, right? So it was commonplace to you go to South Dakota, and then you have to go to South Dakota State, and then you have to go to North Dakota State, to go to Kansas City. You were used to that. Here you get on a bus at Cleveland State and go to Youngstown, right? And then Cleveland State goes to Robert Morris, and it's 2 hours. It's 1 hour. Northern Kentucky goes to Wright State. We go to Detroit. We go to Dayton in 3 hours. Up there, I mean, you're going forever. It seems like, and that's why I'm saying I think us chartering up there had a lot to do with the win. It made it an easier trip. We got home, and it's going to make this week easier because I was home in my house by 10 o'clock Sunday night.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Also here with the hashtag Ask Kampe, a couple more minutes here for you to get your questions in if you got something that you want to know. MD Fun 89 Ask Kampe, as fans of our program, when should we start rooting for the team down the road so they have a win? Then they have a win in the second half in the field goals on the last day of the season. Not quite sure what he was trying to say there. Do you want them to win or no before they play us?
Yes. I would like them to win every game they play before they play us, because that's going to help us in the league standings. I actually talked with Mike this weekend, just, tried to give him some encouragement. Not because I want him to win just because it's got to be really difficult what he's going through. He's been a coach for many, many years. He's been a very successful coach. He's coached in the national championship. And so I can't imagine what he's going through. And I reached out to him just to let him know, that feeling sorry. Sorry is not the right word. Here, and I want to win every game, but when they play us, and I surely don't. Can you imagine if we're playing for the league championship and they're playing for their only win? That would not be a situation I want to walk into on the last game of the season. So
I agree with that.
I want them to win and get things going and come to our place and play their butt off, and we beat them by 1. That would be great.
Gary Gilbert, who's here with the journalism department here at Oakland, some of the journalism classes in attendance. Camp, February's almost here. Oakland has 9 league games to play, including 5 at home. 7 wins seems reasonable in that. Do you think 15-5 will be good enough to tie for first?
Seems reasonable to you, Gary. I'm sure there are many of our fans that think 5 out of 7 is bad, and fire the coach and whatever. I'm just worried about beating Robert Morris. In all honesty, I've talked with other coaches in the league before the season started, and they thought everybody that I talked to thought that if you go 15-5, you'll win it outright, and that's probably true. We'll see. That's probably true if you went 15-5. I think 14-6 will probably be a 4-way tie or something like that. I just see that happening. Maybe even 13-7 is an 8-way tie. I mean, you just don't know. Who would have thought that IUPUI would go to Fort Wayne and win? When we saw Fort Wayne, they might have been the number 1 ranked team in the country that night. I mean, they were so good against us. And how did that happen? So you just don't know what's going to happen in our league. And we got to come every night. And if we don't come Thursday, we're not going to. If we don't come to play on Thursday night, they're going to beat us. I mean, they are. They're good enough because they rebound and they can shoot. And if our guys even think about Cleveland State before that game, we're going to lose. And they know it, and that's what I like about this group of guys. I mean, I've got a mature group of guys that want to win. They want to win. I mean, you heard Drew up here. They want to win, and they understand what it takes to win. And so I feel very confident that we'll play well Thursday.
Camp, here's one from Neil from Washington Township with hashtag Ask Campy. We're not gonna relive. So people were heated here talking about the Lions thing before we went on the air. Fans of the show and everything like that. I want to ask you about it like this: how important is identity and playing to your identity? And because I saw a clip one time of Joe Dumars talking, he said, "Tell me about a good team that has zero identity." You can't. Like, teams have identities. How important is that, Camp?
The problem with that statement is that identity of what your fans think, and identity of the people that pay for the tickets, and identity of the media, and identity of the sports talks guys like you that are going to go on there. And I was driving a car today and I heard, well, they should have gone for it. That's who they've been all year. That doesn't mean anything. It's the identity with what's inside the locker room. That's the identity. When Joe Dumars or people that have coached, played, been the general manager, built teams, that's the identity they talk about that they can't explain. I can talk here for 3 minutes on this, and half the people are going to say, I'm full of crap and I don't know what I'm talking about. But if you've been in a locker room and you've been surrounded by, as what he said, we weren't going to allow us to lose that game, I'm going to do what I have to do to win. That's the identity that you want in a program. This grit, or there's no words on the wall that mean anything. That's all for the media. That's all for fans. It's what the people that play believe. And it's not me. There's nothing I can do. I've never, in a coaching career, I've never made a shot. I've never got a stop. We've tried to make the identity of this team is that we win with our defense. How does that become your identity? You go to Milwaukee, and with 38 seconds to go in regulation, you get a stop. And then with 33 seconds to go in regulation, you get a stop. And then with 38 seconds to go in the first overtime, you get a stop. And then you win the game in double overtime. Then they believe we won because of our defense. And they take on that identity. It's not some fictitious, we got grit, we're going to be gamblers, we're going to do. They don't care about what you think or what the talk shows hosts think. They think about what what is football, 53 people?
Yes.
What those 53 people in that locker room, in our locker room, it's the 15 guys that play. And as much as I want to be part of that, I'm not. Because they expect me to sit there and yell at them. They expect me to try and create a culture. They create the culture. they accept. You got a guy that doesn't show up to practice until 2 minutes to go before practice, and then as soon as I say, okay, guys, I'll see you tomorrow, he's gone. If they allow that, that's the culture of your program. But if they grab that guy by the jersey and say, get your ass here 20 minutes before and get your shots in, and then where are you going? You stay here. You get in the weight room and you go to work. You don't stand in the corner in the weight room. That's where your culture is built. That's where your identity becomes. And Dumars is right. It's the biggest thing you can have with your team. You can't win without an identity. But it isn't the identity that people think. It's the identity that those 15 players view themselves.
And then I have one more for you based on kind of the football stuff from the weekend.
And they should have kicked.
All right. I did want to ask you about this too. But we've talked about this in the past. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Lamar's probably going to win another MVP. It'll be a second league MVP. He got the big money contract, all that stuff. But that doesn't matter because when they announce that he's the MVP, you know what's going to happen, Camp, and with the media and social media and all that kind of stuff, what they're going to say.
When was the voting taking place?
I don't remember the exact date, but I know that they announced
But it was before the playoffs.
Yeah, they don't take the playoffs into
So the
account.
MVP is for the regular season.
Right,
So
absolutely.
he deserves it. They had
No,
the
no.
best team.
And-
He had the greatest year. He's the MVP. Screw what everybody says. He's the MVP. Now, what would you rather be? Would you rather? You're rich. You don't. It's not. Everybody wants to be the MVP so they can get a bigger contract, make more
Right.
money. But
That
let's
was going to
say
be my angle.
let's say you're all rich. You've got money.
All right.
Would you rather be the MVP regular season, or would you rather be the MVP of the playoffs? It's just like at the end of the regular season, we're going to have some guy screwed on the All-League team. Blake Lampman's not going to make it, or Trey's not going to be Player of the Year, or something like that. And they're not going to feel good about it. And you know what I'm going to say to them? I'm going to say, would you rather be the MVP of the regular season or the MVP of the league tournament? Because the MVP of the league tournament is playing in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
And when it's all said and done, there's not one person in the next 40 years that's going to come up to you and go, were you the MVP of the Horizon? I mean, I got 3 kids, and I was pretty damn good. And never once has one of my 3 boys asked me, were you all league? Were you the MVP of the Mid-American Conference? How many points did you average during football? How many tackles did you make? Those 3 kids, I hope they love me. I love them, right? They grew up with me. They've never asked me that. And even if they did, and I said, hey, yeah, Keith, I was the MVP of the Mid-American Conference, which I wasn't. But I'd lie and say I was. Is that going to make them love me more? What's that going to do for me in my life? It's going to do nothing. What is going to do something for me is when I go back with the team that I won a championship with in 15 years and get to stand out on the arena court again and have everybody cheer because they remember Trey Townsend, ripping through in an isolation play and making a basket, or Baru getting that rebound and kicking it out to Jack and making it from half court to tie that game. The people 15 years from now are going to remember that. And that's what they're going to live their life on. It's with their teammates. And that goes to the culture and the identity. And so the MVP for Lamar Jackson means nothing unless he's going to get $2 million extra for having it in his contract. And, like there are a lot of coaches that if you're coach of the year, you get this in your contract. Well, they asked me about that many years ago, and I said, don't you put that in my contract. I don't want a cent if I'm the coach of the year because there's never in my life do I ever even want to think about that. If I'm worried or thinking about that kind of crap, I'm ruining my team. And so the only way anybody should ever think about that if it's monetarily, something for you. You're looking at me like I'm way over time here.
Oh, you are. You are. But that wasn't even the question.
But I think you understand how passionate I am about that kind of stuff.
I know.
I don't even think they should have all league or all tournament or all anything. You know what? Why? Why do we have all league? Why do we have MVP? Who cares? I don't. What was your question?
I'm thinking about asking it, but we are super late.
That's okay. Ask it.
Okay. The point of the question was going to be, so when it gets announced that he's the MVP, social media is going to fire up and everybody will kind of clown him a little bit and stuff like that. because we're so Super Bowl obsessed. And we've seen this to a degree, right? You've talked about this, that you've even had to adjust your line of thinking to a degree because it's about the NCAA tournament right now. It's not about winning a regular season title or anything like that. Do we put too much on that now as a society? Because people are going to come on there, they're going to say, why is he MVP? He can't even win a playoff game. Do we put too much on that now, that big moment?
I think their fans do. I don't. If I'm him, I don't give a crap what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, obviously.
I mean, obviously, I would care what my fan base thinks. And he had a chance to leave, and he didn't. So if I'm their fan base, I'm pretty happy that he stayed. And
right.
And their fans are going to do that. I mean, your fans in the heat of the moment say the stupidest stuff, and they believe what they're saying, and they're going to rip anybody. I mean, I've seen it. I've heard it. I had some guy reach out to me and told me I have anal cancer. I get it, but why anal cancer?
That's tough, man.
That's a tough one. I mean, that stuff happens in the heat of the moment. So you let it go, and you understand that once they get back, right now, this is a period of mourning for Detroit Lion fans because they were so close to something that they've never had. And then in a week from now, they'll start, and then pretty soon we're going to start thinking about the draft and these great players. And then next year, we wouldn't be here if we hadn't lost that game. And that fueled us. It's just sports. It's what makes sports so great and interesting. The problem with social media is what you're talking about, though. I mean, it flames fires that should never happen.
Okay, Greg Hessen back in the studio just told me we can actually keep it for 3.5 more minutes, and they'll combine the two breaks. So real quick, let's take the final 3.5 minutes.
Are we talking about something important here?
Now we're going to.
Anal cancer.
That is true, yeah. This week, camp, Robert Morris, Thursday. We'll see everybody out at the Arena. Cleveland State, Saturday. Note the 1:00 game time on Saturday afternoon. The Hall of Honor will take place on Saturday night.
Matt McClellan,
Yep.
ex-basketball players going in. And a lot of the Division I players don't want to hear this, but if Matt had stayed at Oakland and played his last two, I think he would have been an NBA All-Star. I think he would have been the greatest player to ever play at Oakland. And Matt, we went from the transition of Division I to Division II, and so we had that 4-year period. We couldn't go to the NCAA tournament, and he got drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays. He was a pitcher, and he decided to do that, take the $7 million he got. Can you believe that? Could have played 2 more years for me, and instead he took $7 million.
That guy's crazy.
What's wrong with that guy? Matt, though, he was sick. His sophomore year, we went to the Elite Eight, Sweet 16 or something like that in the Division II tournament. He averaged 23 points and 13 rebounds. I mean, think about that. What a player he was. And you got to be something special when you're going in the Hall of Fame and you only played 2 years. So.
Yeah, well, I'm emceeing that event, so I may steal that line, Camp. I'm not going to give you any credit. I won't.
I won't time, buddy. I'm used to it from you.
Yeah, 100%. No, but Robert Morris, as we talked about on Thursday, Cleveland State on Saturday afternoon. So a very, very quick turnaround for such a huge, huge game on Saturday.
You just did it, Neil. I'm sitting here I got 2 players here telling how important Thursday is. Now you're going to talk about a huge, huge game on Saturday.
Show for huge game on Thursday against.
There you go.
A huge game on Thursday. No, but Camp, the moral of the question is this: that's a very tight turnaround window.
Yeah, but that's what the league does, and we've done it for years, and I think we as a staff know how to do it, and I think their coaches know how to do it too. And trust me, if our place is full on Saturday, they won't even be feeling. They won't feel what happened Thursday night. They'll be so excited to play and go, and that's what home court's about. That's why it's so hard to win up there. That's why it's hard to win anywhere. Road wins are jewels, man.
45 seconds left, Camp. Got anything for the good of the group?
I would have kicked.
I would have went for it.
That's right. That's why you're sitting in that spot and I'm sitting over here.
But we're right next to each other, though, aren't we, Camp? So,
for many years.
Many years, man. I love it. All right, that'll do it for the Greg Kampe Show. Appreciate everybody coming out. We'll be back at it next Monday, as always, at 6 o'clock, right here, live from RJ's Pub in Rochester Hills. It is the Greg Kampe Show. Thanks for listening, everybody. Well, see you later.